Hi, everyone. I'm Julia, CEO of HelloPrenup.
Hi, and I'm Silvia. I'm a certified financial planner with Manent Capital, helping young professionals with their finances.
Let's talk about my favorite, I'm being sarcastic, least favorite, but very important topic, budgeting.
Budgeting.
Tell me all about budgeting.
Let
I
me
have a lot to learn.
Number one, if you're watching this, you probably get hives when you think about budgeting.
Yes.
Like all of our clients and all my clients, they hate to budget. They don't understand how much money they're coming in. I ask them, how much money do you make? If they're a business owner, they're like, I don't know. I ask them, okay, how much money do you spend? 2,000 to 3,000 a month. And then when we take a look at their statements and credit card statements, we realize that those Uber rides that you were taking actually contributed to $9,000 or $10,000 in total spending. True story that actually happened to me. Like, I used to think that I was a very frugal person, that I wasn't overspending money. And then what I actually did is at the end of the year, which I typically recommend that when you do a budget, that you do it and you look at all your expenses that you did the whole year. Because the problem with budgeting is that a lot of people will tell you to do it on a monthly basis. You know, maybe you have high health expenses in 1 month when you have surgery, or maybe you have high travel expenses another month when you travel, or you have high wedding expenses another month when you go to someone's wedding. You know those weddings are freaking expensive even for the people that go.
They are.
So it's important to actually, at the end of the year, download all of your bank transactions. You can do that with Mint, our software. Personally, I like to get really clear, and I'll use my Visa or American Express. I'll go directly to there, download all my expenses for the entire year, and then take a look. As I'll do like a quick little pivot table for those Excels.
Ooh.
Basically what it is, I'll just take a look at where I spend, and I realized that I was spending so much money on Uber rides, and as well as like healthcare. I had a surgery that I had forgotten about, and all of a sudden that was $10,000 that I had forgotten about, even though it was my biggest category for the year.
You chose to forget.
I chose to forget about my surgery. When you look at your spending plan, it will be just so eye-opening. Like for me, when I realized that I was spending so much money on Ubers and healthcare, I decided, to make not take as many Ubers and take public transportation. This was pre-COVID. But it will help you to just see where you're spending, because if you don't measure, you're not going to know what you do.
As a couple, oftentimes couples have vastly different views on how to spend money and what a budget means and how the budget should be allocated. So how do you recommend that couples start this conversation, and then what do they do if they have really different views on how money should be spent?
And this is exactly a great question. That's why we always go back to what we first spoke about, which was, what are your goals, right? What do you want for your life? For your kids? Do you want your kids to go to a $60,000, $70,000 a year private school? Are you okay not paying for your kids' college? Because your goals are going to be the first thing that we need to take care of. Then, once those goals, we allocate your savings towards the goals that you want. Either it's financial independence, or it's buying a house, or it's travel to Cabo, whatever it is. Once you do that, once we earmark and we make sure that we can afford that, then the rest, you can spend it pretty much however you like. I would recommend start with your goals, allocate towards your goals, do what we call a reverse budget, which is what we do with all of our clients. If you don't save your money first, it's going to be spent. Naturally, as human beings, we use all available resources. There's actually a law. There's actually studies about this. It's called Parkinson's Law. Parkinson's Law actually really tells people, it has nothing to do with Parkinson's disease, but it has all to do with allocating, right? If you have $100 in your checking account, you're probably going to spend all $100. But if you only have $50 in your checking account, you're probably only going to spend 50. So that's why we always recommend allocate towards those goals first. And then what's in your checking account, that's money you can spend freely, and there you can avoid arguments with your partner. friend who was an overspender. She liked to spend money on the real and clothes and Sephora and all this makeup.
Yep.
And then her boyfriend was a very, very frugal, someone who really liked to invest his money. As my friend had grown up, she never really had to worry about money.
Yeah.
She lived a good life. She had her college paid for, so she didn't have to worry about money. Whereas her partner, her spouse, or her future spouse, he saw his father lose a lot of money during the 2008 financial crisis, and that completely traumatized him. And so after that happened, he told himself, that's never going to happen to me or my family or anyone. So he became very aggressive at saving his money, to the point where he now has over $1 million at the age of 33 of net worth, because he was so frugal, such a diligent investor and saver, and she wasn't, right? And she had a lot less. And so a lot of the times, the stories, right? If someone is a certain way, something happened for them to be like that. And it's completely understandable for someone to be an aggressive investor or saver if they've gone through that.
And how did your friend and her now spouse?
Yeah.
How did they start out having this conversation? I mean, they must have had a conversation at some point where they realized their views on money were vastly different, but how did they have a conversation about budgeting, and then how did it go?
Yes, so it's a great story. First day they moved in together before getting married, he said to her, hey, we're gonna do a budget. And she was like, well, what the heck is a budget? She had no idea what it was, right? And they said, this is how much it costs to live here.
Yeah.
We're gonna pay groceries together. We're gonna buy furniture for the house together. And we each of us are gonna contribute to both of the household. So they got together, they spoke about, okay, this is how much money needs to go into the house.
Sure.
How much money do you have now to go to your berries class, and to go to your class pass, and to go to Sephora, if you have to take care of these really much needed expenses?
Yeah.
So typically what we see a lot is the 50-30-20 budget.
Okay.
50% of your budget goes to needs, right? Things like groceries, your rent, that allocated to needs. 30% goes to your wants. Maybe it's berries, that makes you super happy, or a travel to Cabo, that makes you super happy.
Yeah.
That can be allocated to wants, and then 20% to savings. That's an easy rule of thumb that you can at least start with if you don't want to go through like a serious plan in place. But that should be the way where you start.